Welcome once again to the COVID-19 update on MITV. I am Tomi Singujo, and it's a pleasure to be here at your faces this morning. This afternoon, pardon me, we're going to be talking about the 100 days of COVID-19 in Nigeria. Quite a while. It's been quite a while. Many people do not know that we have experienced COVID-19 for a period of 100 days. How have we fared? Those are questions we'll be asking today. What has happened since the advent of COVID-19, or the influx of COVID-19 into Nigeria, the journey from the beginning till date? Today is the 7th of June, 2020. And on the 27th of February this year, 2020, an Italian contractor with Iwikoro Cement did come into Nigeria with that novel coronavirus strain that has become popularly known as COVID-19. Had been, at that time labeled as a virus that was ravaging countries, but just shortly after it got into Nigeria, the WHO did name it a pandemic, something that seemed to be ravaging more people and may get the opportunity. We may get a vaccine as quickly as possible to chase it out and make sure it doesn't become an epidemic. So far, COVID-19 has risen from that one single case till what we have today. And as of today, we have just about, not so much, 12,233 cases of COVID-19 in Nigeria. We have surely come a long way. 1% to 12,233 cases. How far, how much have we fared? Joining me in the conversation this afternoon is Mr. Akin Fatoke. Of course, we've had certain conversations around COVID-19 all through the period, all through the 100 days. But today we're examining it together from the very beginning till date. Mr. Akin Fatoke is an elder statement, is a communication specialist, and of course, he's one of the few people who were there at the beginning of the June 12, has an overview of what happened really June 12. Remember, we're also in the June 12 week, so quite a number of things are happening to Nigeria now. Mr. Akipatoke, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Tomi Singh. It's a pleasure to be here. And
I think you've added a bit of weight, I must say that.
Well, again, COVID-19, after 100 days.
Came with.
It's just coming with,
so as COVID is swelling up, you were also swelling.
You know the normal Nigerian swag. COVID-19 swag, and we must not swag on this because, like you rightly said, even in 2013, when we had the ravaging Ebola crisis, something similar to what we have here,
yes,
except that it didn't come with this level of pandemonium and fear
in the country.
So if you see some people putting on weight,
it just was contained.
It came with fear. It was contained. It was not hyped.
Very
true. People saw, like Uru. When they say Uru festival is coming, you don't have to see. But people felt it somehow, somewhat, and they took. May the Almighty God bless Mrs. Adadevo, and they saw Mrs. Adadevo fall, and quite a number of people still have not seen people fall now, even though it's happening.
They still say, have you seen, when you have an argument with people now, they say, have you found anybody? Is there any member of your family? Have you seen anyone who has suffered from COVID-19? And the answer is always, no, I haven't, but I have heard stories.
Yes, many haven't, but I have seen.
I have also
seen. As much as yesterday, a professional colleague, by all means and standards, a very young man, who still had discussions with me a few weeks back.
Fell.
I got the very sad information that he passed just yesterday. So it's real. It's there.
Interesting times we sure are in, but the topic for this evening is the 100 days. I keep hoping it's evening because COVID-19 updates does happen in the evening during the week, but on Saturday and Sunday we'll have this just about 1:30 p.m. All the way till 2:30, and today we'll be looking at 100 days of COVID-19 in Nigeria. We're taking a look at how much we have fed, and going by the your general perspective before I begin to give you the facts. How do you think we are fared?
With all humility and sense of responsibility that makes the rain to fall without we lifting a finger, and we get fed in this part of the world. Giving that glory to Almighty God and happenstance. In other words, I'm saying you have not gone to the farm. You wake up early in the morning and then you see lettuce and you see orange and you see things grow up in your background. You must give glory to God.
Yes.
How do I feel? I feel with all sense of responsibility that Nigeria has taken 3 steps forward. I didn't say 1 step. 3 steps forward, and we have been blessed that in 100 days of COVID, quite a number of things that we are going to get into have been put in place, from the number 1 to
the 12,233rd case,
of which 4,000 has been discharged.
Exactly.
That's about 33%.
Yeah, about 3,826.
And about, as we speak, slightly over 340,000 dead, which is about 3%. So, in a statistics class, what you are likely to find is for you to give yourself a pass mark. But wait a minute, we are still ramping up.
Exactly.
We are still trying to develop.
Exactly. I think at this point we're even in a very critical position right now. We can't even say that.
Very critical situation, which is similar to 1918, where we might be, I pray not, but might be having a second wave now that the partial lockdown, if there was any lockdown in the first place, is being eased. And the fact that, like you rightly said, people have not believed, not just people in the village. I am talking about people...
Even people in the cities.
Not just people in the cities. I'm talking of people who have ramped up 2, 3, 4 degrees, PhDs. Yes, I'm talking seriously.
Learned people.
And they are not believing because, like the Ebola time, some people felt then that if you bathe with salt water, it will go.
It will go.
And some people now believe that if you do use...
The erroneous beliefs that came with it.
So, still a long way to go. Not yet to Huru, like we say in parts of this Africa. I hope the second wave, like we had in the influenza flu of the Spanish influenza of 1918, does not repeat itself.
All right, let's take a look at some of the facts from 100 days. We can look back and say that surely we have come. When this journey started, we had just about 1 or about 3. We could account for about 3 laboratories, molecular laboratories.
Test centers.
As it were,
yes.
In Nigeria. In Lagos, we quickly heard that there was an infectious diseases center in Yaba, which was like a strange idea. People didn't even know it existed, you know. And the moment that came into being, everybody ran up, you know, started saying, okay, is it real, is it not? The deplorable state of that particular center was quickly addressed by the Lagos State government. Now, because this was found in Ogun State, quickly brought down to Lagos that had better resources to handle and contain it. Ogun State also did a lot of work in containing the people who came in contact with the index case. And so from there, it became a journey of 2 twin brothers, of a twin where Ogun and Lagos were married together. When Lagos went on a lockdown, Ogun had to go along with it because that was where it started from. They are brothers, they cannot be separated. They're too much interwoven. And so far, the journey continued. We went from that 1 and we got to 44. I want to take a look at some of the pictures that we have this morning. But before we get there, let's take a look at this disease centers, the infectious diseases center, the IDH. The preparation before, which I believe is one of the reasons you said you would say, yes, 30%. We've gone past where we used to be. We didn't have that. Now, as of today, the NCDC can boast of over 28 centers across Nigeria.
Precisely 30. You know, Tominsin, I have to hold myself because this is the typical Nigerian thing. If in 100 days we could move from 1 to 30, it meant that if we were serious, we could have
In
moved
1,000 days, we could have moved to
300. Since 2013, IDH, I remember back in those days, and then it's not taking away anything from the Lagos State government.
Yes.
Governor Sanwo-Olu, thumbs up. Mr. Akin Abayomi, the Commissioner for Health, thumbs up. All the people in the front lines, including those who are losing their lives, thumbs up. But the point was that we had a document. We had a document that was prepared in 2013.
by the then Governor Babatunde Fashola.
Where is that
Judgment.
document? Why did we have to now begin to now
Reinvent the wheel.
It was there. So, just like we have in health, like we have in our football, like we have in our education, the white papers to developmental agenda for this country are wasting in the shelves because there is no continuity. So in 100 days,
Besides the fact that we have the same political party.
in 100 days, from 1 to 30, thumbs up. And I also will have to thumbs up the private sector who have decided, even though people say, well, they had no choice because you couldn't run away somewhere else. Even
Very
Mr.
true.
President can't run away to London or Germany or whatever.
To go say we want to go do something.
And then
Interesting.
it dawned on us that we are in this quagmire together. So
Together.
from 1 to 30, I think it's thumbs up. If we can continue
With that pace.
with that pace, and somebody does not now then come and then say, oh, to hell, and then throw that in the garbage, it means Nigeria, despite the fact that you look at us and you see us as never do wells, yes, we may never do wells in quite a number of areas. We have one or two things to show, not just sub-Saharan Africa, but the world. And I mean that precisely.
Mr. Akinfatuke, something interesting you just said about this fight, and you're saying that it is possible if we keep up the pace of the development.
Yes.
We may see something change about Nigeria.
Yes.
Reminds me of the conversation that was had at the CBN Consultative Forum a couple of weeks before COVID-19 became a pandemic across the world. And former governor, the Minister of Works now, Governor Babatunde Raji Fashola, I like to use governor because he was there then. He said something there. He said, this may be Nigeria's finest hour to change the narrative, because this could produce a Nigeria that we could have been dreaming of in a long time if we can harness the avenue that will be made available by COVID-19. And he was talking about production, he was talking about manufacturing. I remember that so many leaders in their various industries, including Aliko Dangote, who was one of the people, or who is one of the people at the forefront of this fight for COVID, not for the private sector, was there at that meeting. And he pointed at a bottle of hand sanitizer in front of Aliko Dangote at that consultative forum and said, when I was coming, I picked up the hand sanitizer I saw was produced in China. He said, hand sanitizers are produced out of spirit. What happened to our burukutu? And, I'm quoting him, the way he said it, and the berries that is wasting on the streets of Jos, Plateau Jos. Resources are already available. But you talked about continuity. Now we have come with a lot of ingenious ideas. We're doing so much. Syringe factories are being converted into mask protective PPE production. We have masks being produced en masse in Nigeria now, and sanitizers are everywhere, and they don't cost up to 1,000 naira. But I see a danger, and I'm asking the question if that's why you said that continuity may also be a problem. COVID-19 is conquered. We have come that far. Do you see us sustaining the pace? Not just as a people, the manufacturing sector is one. The health sector is where we are. We have these facilities. Do you see us sustaining the base?
Yes, the Wonder Kid, and please pardon me to say that the Wonder Kid that we have been able to nurture within nature of the Nigerian political milieu and space. My former governor, Raji Fashola, made that statement.
Yeah.
But Nigeria, finance hour, it was parroting.
Yeah, it's a good produce.
Winston Churchill. And I also like to quickly just throw into the bucket that Mr. Raji Fashola also said that it becomes Nigeria's finest hour if you get the right attitude, everybody working together, and that I remember very vividly subsequently that we take God, too much Godism out of us. It's not saying we should not have God, but that we begin to learn everything, your son or your daughter is doing something, God. You are not making money, God. You are not doing what? And then we live into the background the fact that we should
we're harassing God more.
Not only harassing God, we are insulting ourselves, and we're insulting God. We can't really insult God. Yes, is the right moment. This is the very first time ever that we are having a situation open to our hands where the rich have nowhere else to run to.
And so they started bringing up money.
The COVID-19 is a mirror that has been placed in front of us, that we're looking at death right in the face, and against that we get to the burukutu and the alcohol and begin to make things happen. However, we must come with the right attitude, not to want to cheat, not to want to, laugh at other people's misfortune, not to really to act in ways that is seen that we are showing example. The high and mighty should not die, and then the people around the seat of power just rush there, and then the poor and the whole polo are looking and say, but they said we should not be doing this, and we are not showing example. Now I'm still talking about the right attitude. The creative ingenuity of the Nigerian man
thrives better,
and the Nigerian woman is going to strive better if we all remain closed. But when we now begin to see situations where we are going to get protocols,
the dissenting comments and dissenting attitude,
and then our religious leaders and our opinion holders are saying, I don't believe. Still that issue, before we go into the fact that a great shame. Really.
A lot of people do not believe that COVID-19 does exist. I'll still like to take a look at so many of the facilities that are being put in place now. And I'm not talking about the temporary ones. I'm not talking about the landmarks of this world that were donated as isolation
centers.
But let's look at the facilities that were put into a landmark. Landmark is an event center, now an isolation center temporarily for the fight against COVID-19. All of the instruments, all of the things that are inside of Landmark would be taken out, right? There are equipments that should be taken out to go equip hospitals.
Yes.
We already have deplorable hospitals till date, despite the fact that COVID-19 has brought about us, despite the fact that we didn't import. And it is difficult to import at a time like this. Did you see the kind of equipment we have in the centers? Where they're coming from?
They are mind-boggling. Those equipments, some of them were donated.
Yes, of course, I know.
Some of them came from...
Some were imported. I know quite a number of it was imported. I know some were converted from various places.
I like, listeners and viewers to just imagine for a minute. It hasn't happened for the first time. The National Orthopedic Hospital at its inception had massive equipments that came in at one point in time from publicly spirited people that got it in there. The Mercy Hospital for children had massive equipment that came from private sector and what have you. What now happened down the line? They were all stolen. When you said these equipments eventually, all things being equal, is 2020, 2022, 2023, wherever, that we are now going to be looking at COVID and be saying bye-bye, those equipments, under normal circumstances, should be taken to our teaching hospitals. But I can almost bet you, because if attitude is not changed, and we don't, and we put all this bureaucracy, it will end up in people's private pockets. A giant generator, as giant as your facility here. I'm talking of giant generator that was in the National Stadium at one point in time, ended up in at that time the minister's house. Look, a giant
allegedly
generator. Well, it went to AFCC and what have you. Okay, a giant generator that was donated. I am part of this because I can only tell you what I experienced. To a place of excellence like the Lagos University Teaching Hospital disappeared in ways and manners that hopefully my dear brother who is the CMD there, Professor Bode, hopefully some of the things that he inherited. How did it happen that I'm talking of generators that if it's moving, I mean, virtually the whole streets will be closed. Now went out of those places, and then people now then cannibalize. Why this should happen, I really don't know. And so, those disciplines that we have in private sector, those disciplines that will ensure that people who have been entrusted with our commonwealth, and if they should get missing, are not only seen to be punished, but are really punished. And these are not just guards.
Punished.
I'm even talking, and I'm going to say it openly, people at the National Assembly, people at the presidency, people at the state houses, people at the local governments, needs to be brought to book. So it must be kept intact. Thomason, I can tell you this for free. The international donor agencies are waiting to give to Nigeria, but somehow, somewhat, they ask the likes of us, and you ask me who I'm not a government agent. No. They ask the likes of us because they had done business with us before. We had the malaria eradication scheme for which Nigeria was giving huge sums of money. It was during my time when I was working in the private sector in a place called Mobile Nigeria PLC that they said they were going to stop, and I said, you cannot stop this. And they showed me evidence of what has gone to Nigeria and how even before landing anywhere the thing had disappeared. They talk to people like us because they say, is your country changed? You were crying wolf the other time. And they say, yeah, we used to sponsor the track and field that produced the greatest of the stars for Nigeria. What happened thereafter?
Mr. Fatoke,
they started fighting because they stole all the money.
I need to cut in there. I would be expecting that Nigeria at the end of COVID-19 would have better equipped hospitals, because we are on the way towards getting enough facility or getting enough equipment to at least change the face of 80%, not 100%. Now, one interesting part to note is that majority of the people that are serving on the Presidential Task Force team didn't even know that the hospital system was in that much of a deplorable state before they began to do the inspection and move around and see what is not available and what is available. But governors are saying we've made available 100-bed facility here, 150-bed facility. So we are hopeful that they will translate all of that into equipping the general hospitals and the tertiary hospitals after. Well, let's take a look at the manufacturing sector. We were talking about sanitizers. Everybody has become the ingenious ability of a Nigerian has become, more polished, more refined during this period. hand sanitizing factories suddenly are not going to NAFDAC to get approval before they sell. As a matter of fact, there are all kinds of sanitizers in the market that don't have any form of registration altogether, and people are buying. In fact, government is donating. Government officials are donating as well without the necessary cumbersome process. But the moment COVID goes and NAFDAC steps in, we see an intentional cumbersome process. And I'm saying, isn't that going to be part of the process of killing businesses? Because rather than that now becoming a big business where Nigerians can now begin to... I read something about Slovenia this morning. And Slovenia was reported as a large export country. And they looked about 2-point-something million people there. And I looked at the number they were when they were talking about the Human Development Index, and I looked at and it said the Inequality Human Development Index. And I looked at that this morning, and I saw that Slovenia was just underneath Germany. And I looked at the population of the country. So in my mind, I was doing a comparison with Nigeria. I saw that they were really far from us in terms of population, but they were also really, really, really far from us in terms of development. That was Yugoslavia a while ago. You know, let's look at countries like this, how they've translated their tide.
Tosin,
Export, imports. Nigeria is importing.
You know what
sanitizers should be going out soon.
You know what the difference is? The difference is simply attitude and a culture of service. What has been lacking in Nigeria is process and technology. You made an allusion to the fact that people who are supposed to be regulating or regulators
seem to make the system a bit
cumbersome because they have introduced the human element. When you introduce human element, that is when your file will be gathering dust. That is when the guards at the gates or the guys that you see at the gates of the banks,
yes.
Now we have pandemonium, you have to see them before you can enter and all that kind of stuff. Now, when those processes are in place, all you just need to do is to work on those processes and the fact that at the end of the day, we are one another brother's keeper. I am a bit worried that sanitizers are being sold, not being tested, and I can tell you, just like face masks, similar to what I'm putting on here, people have just gone ahead with reckless abandon to go and create things that they know has not followed the protocol. Why are we so wicked in this part of the world? Why is it, for instance, that our leaders, whether temporal and spiritual, are so self-centered that it is always mine? What can I get? What is in it for me that guide us? Hopefully, post-COVID, we are not going to be getting technology. So those technology from its rudimentary stage should now be more inclusive, so that by a press of button, if you have some chemicals that you can put together, by loading them online, the people in NAFDAC or Food and Drugs Administration. Food and Drug Administration in the US are enablers. They even
FDA.
want to help you
to make it quicker.
In our part of the world, it will just continue to gather storm, and so creativity and innovation are killed just like that. So with the kind of awareness that
and I think it
now,
actually encourages people, Mr. Vansuke, encourages people to go behind the corner, to go cut corners,
so that they can
make a living.
And then at the end of the day, the grass will suffer. I think regulation should be much more forthcoming, should be limited to what technology are not able to do, and it should dovetail down to the grassroots, to the local government and the wards. This is something we should all hold and we should all imbibe. You talked about manufacturing. Yes,
the local manufacturer,
the local manufacturing are ready to unravel if we don't have the stiffness that we have, including the kind of tariffs that somebody just sits down somewhere
and just writes it out
and just decides and try to put us aside. It should be much more inclusive.
Let's take a look at the pharmaceutical firms. of course, they're in the spotlight because a lot of people have been expecting the pharmaceuticals in Nigeria to come up with treatment regimen, vaccine, drugs for COVID-19, explore our own medical system so that they can come up with something ingenious. But that's been done. Now, NAFDAC has confirmed that only one indigenous manufacturer has sought approval for COVID-19 so far. Quite a number of people are saying yes, they've tried their best, they're putting up products here and there. But coincidentally, the pharmaceutical industry has pushed up prices, so much so during this 100 days that beats imagination. I mean, prescription drugs have gone so expensive.
Now, I tell you what, at the onset, I think within about the 26th day
Yes.
of the COVID thing, the Federal Minister of Health, Dr. Hanire, Minister of State for Health, Dr. Olorunniyi Mamora, came out and shouted to the whole world. And they had to go and talk to our brothers, especially if you look at Aba axis and you look at Onitsha axis, that our brothers, because the bulk of a lot of the drugs that coming through that angle, and some other places, and it's I'm not profiling now, even in Southwest. What people did again goes back to the point I was talking about, being compassionate. People knew that a lot of the imports coming from China had stopped. Quite a number of the containers was, locked up in the high seas. That was the time then they decided that they were going to make what you call supernormal profit. At what cost? It's terrible. Now, you made a point. I want to be a bit fair to the pharmaceutical companies. Their stock of real, genuine drugs were being depleted for 100 days, so they were not able to replenish their stock. Again, I have a pharmacist in my ward area who came out and told us, gentlemen of this ward, my stock of dispersible tablets that I always use for you, I don't want to mention, is going down. I might have to ration. I'm not going to raise the price. Please, let's all come together. Give us, a pre-order so that we can see how we could
rally around,
especially because of the
look for stock to cater to everybody.
That is what I call compassion.
Now,
some other pharmacists just then decided that, well, I have
got the price,
and then just double the price.
Mr. Fasuke, they blame the COVID-19 pandemic, they blame the high forex rates, the ban on the export of drugs, which you've mentioned. Raw materials also from China and India were banned. People are not bringing them in. But one thing that they're also talking about is a few of them, only 4 of the pharmaceutical firms have accessed the 10 billion out of the 100 billion CBN stimulus package. Only 4.
Why is that?
Now,
do you know?
So far, I would ask you to tell me.
Tell you. It's like what I tell my students in finance class. You have great ideas. We have funds available for you to assess. Can you put a simple feasibility study together and tell me, okay, because we are going to be facing the banks, and tell us how are you going to sell, how are you going to do your logistics, how are you going to repay whatever loan and stuff like that. And they start very well. We have a vision to be able to do this, but the rigor has not been such that the discipline, basically because the average person just thinks, oh, this is money, and they can always divert the money. Now, for you to be able to assess, DBN2 and what have you, some 30 billion naira money to be assessed, when they go to show what
their documents,
what they had, they were not able to pass some of the tests. And that takes me back
That's
to
why the applications are still being processed.
and that takes me back to our local traditional medicine institution. It would be wrong to say they are not efficacious, but it is very, very right that they have not been able to subject themselves to some relative rigors to prove. It's not that you are saying you're just it's done well for you. We have to do some of those testing and what have you. The Institute of Tropical Medicine, University of Ibadan, back in the 50s, was more than a force to be reckoned with. In fact, the West came to pick some of the dogonyarros that we had, some of the hybrid ginger that we had, and took it off. While our people were looking at the other side. The Federal Ministry of Finance has created a separate department. They are going to be looking at that aspect of traditional medicine, and I think more of our people, if you are sure about what you have,
Yes.
should really step out beyond shouting and making a lot of noise on social media. This is something that has to do with us. And if somebody, with all due respect, says that the bitter cooler can cure some things, yes, I agree. It should be invited. Somebody in similar circumstance during Ebola was invited, and I can tell you, after 1 or 2 or 3 tests,
Yes.
it was found that it was nil. N-I-H-I-N, nihil. It was on wrong foundation. The man eventually died. His son
Took over.
he's been making a lot of claim. That was during the Ebola time. Now during COVID-19, he's been making a lot of claim on social media that they didn't call him, they didn't do this, they didn't do that.
But we know the truth.
It's easy for us to blame government, and I say yes, government needs to be blamed for not giving us the enabling environment, for not being proactive, for even the low-hanging time that we saw the sword of Damocles going to fall on our heads, and they were pussyfooting and not closing the borders when the index case of 27th of February came into to Nigeria, and not vamping and doing the mass testing. Not, for instance, when Governor Sanwo-Olu came into it and beautiful things were beginning to happen, we didn't have the muzzle to be able to control closed borders, locked borders, and so what we have now is now staring us in the face. We still don't have the energy and the wherewithal. Point should be made. If there's any point I should make on this program to Nigerians, is that former Governor Babajide Fashola has indicated, this is Nigeria's defining moment. Not just for health, hopefully we'll be able to scale through health, education, technology. The fact that even the Boko Harams, the insurgents, the kidnappers that we are finding, the rape victims that we are finding, that if we are able to ramp up and deploy technology in a way and manner that it, this COVID-19 will help us through, and we stay on it, and like the Japanese, after the Second World War, when they went out there, and the Americans were saying, and the Russians were telling them, you have inferior products, don't use inferior products. Those Japanese say, you know what they said? I would rather use made in Japan, because if I don't make use of made in Japan, how will my people?
Interesting point you're making there. Something interesting happened during the week here in Lagos. One of the Indian companies in Nigeria donated a particular equipment, a disinfecting equipment, disinfector or something, to the Lagos State government, to one of the ministries there, I think to the office of the head of service. And it was completely made in Nigeria. Completely, from wire to equipment to everything. Of course, they couldn't import anything. And they said to me, they were able to achieve this because they saw that the government had been preaching the Made in Nigeria concept, and they decided a long time ago to follow suit and begin to see how they can also, harness the products in Nigeria, harness some of the raw materials, and they were able to produce a complete disinfector without a single item outside of Nigeria.
Because
everything was made here.
In our books we had in the Nigerian content, we know is there.
But people say it's not possible, Mr. Fasuke.
Very possible.
And brings me to the issue of
Federal University of Technology produced somewhere in the east, okay, produced hand washing, and that was.
I saw one in Owerri.
Yes, the one in Owerri.
The one in Ogun State. What's the name of the school in Ogun State now? It's not Oshele. One of the schools in Ogun State now, the Federal Polytechnic.
The Federal
produced a ventilator.
And I can tell you, from Yaba College of Technology, that was first in Nigeria, to the Industrial Research Center in Oshodi, and so many other research centers. During the Civil War, the Biafrans produced Obanike. What has happened to that? Was that with any foreign input and technology?
That was from
the
Nigeria.
point we are making is that we can make it here in Nigeria, but it's the same Nigerian attitude that says this is made in Aba and this is made in the best sandalettes that you can find anywhere are made by our young people here. They take the patent, take it to Italy and to Spain, so they can put a label on it, and then they say this. Oh yeah, this is, so we have this mindset that we
if
need
it's
to,
not foreign,
that we
not
need
original.
to change. We need this foreign tastes that we have.
But we've been
given
able
to
to
ourselves.
survive. Did you notice in the agricultural sector, we've been able to survive without foreign materials, particularly in this 100 days of no foreign goods coming in. Have you noticed that even on the shelves, the foreign food, they're a little bit scarce?
They are scarce.
And we survived.
We survived because we
We have to condition ourselves into doing it.
we came back
Do you see us continuing with that pattern?
to look at our gari
Oh,
in ice water with groundnuts made in the north or in part of Nigeria.
And we decided to enjoy it.
My grandmother used to tell me, Akin, back when I was much more smaller, I'm going to give you something that you will eat and you will love it. I said, Mommy, what is it? Grandma, what is it? She made boiled yam. She got palm oil, put some little salt in it.
And it is really lovely.
Lovely. Back in the day, I think somebody came visiting from outside Nigeria, and the person tasted it. How did you get this? Where did you get this from? This is made in Nigeria. Over the years, we have just, is it from shea butter? Is it from cashew nuts? A lot of the things we can get from cashew nuts. Somebody has said that, take your finger, this finger, cut it into two, take the half, plug it into Nigerian soil.
It will grow.
It will grow again. So we need all these kind of mindsets such that government and the regulators must now begin to reward such innovations. The thing that you said the Indian donated, the Indian happens to be my friend and professional colleague in the business school. Now, what did they do? Get all of you together, set up a competition. Let's see who's going to
Come up with something.
And these guys came up with something. It may be a bit slow, but eventually. And I say, when we get the technology in place, when we get our energy sector working very well, this country, maybe I should just smuggle this because, I'm basking in pride. This country can produce the likes of Dr. Akinwumi Adesina. We will look at our development against the interest of the West and decide that over my dead body, I would rather make sure that the backward lateral linkage is done in Africa so that they don't just come and take our raw materials, take it out to the West and then
Come back to sell it to us.
continue to give them work to do and stuff like that, and we are shouting hoarse. So in all sectors of our endeavor, COVID-19, after 100 days, and I see that, okay, we are ramping testing now. Well, for what we have tested so far, 3% have died. 3% out of the 12,000
I've died.
have died. 33% of testing, okay,
Yes.
are falling positive. If we all can put our hands together, if we all can just hang on to the low-hanging fruits of protocols,
We'll definitely
if we all continue to just believe, it's not because government says it, it's because it's real. Back in the day when they used to talk about Imototo, health is wealth and stuff like that, you must wash your hands and all that kind of thing that we do, and your environment has always been part of us. So let's do that, and let our traditional medicine practitioners look at what Madagascar is doing. If you say you don't believe, let's get back. Let's begin to do what is needful and continue to do the research. The answer is not going to come out tomorrow. It's not going. It may not come out next tomorrow, but for the sake of children unborn,
to create a future for them.
People in the future are going to look at the grave sites of quite a number of people living, and they want to go and pee on their graves. But some, they will say, yes, he or she made a whole lot of difference. The best time for us to have started this was over 30 years ago, 50 years ago. The next best time now is today.
Because COVID-19 has given us the opportunity to redefine Nigeria and redefine the moment. We have ramped up testing. 74,999 people have been tested for COVID-19. Only 12,233 have been confirmed positive. 8,065. But if you look at what we have on the screen, 28th of March, that was about a month, exactly 1 month after the index case was found in Nigeria, we had 89 confirmed cases of COVID-19 and only one death that was recorded then. If you take a look at the next one, that was on the 29th, we had 111. Quickly it began to rise, only one death was still recorded. Quickly running through the numbers as you would have it on the screen. But as of today, active cases are 8,065, discharge cases 3,826, and deaths have risen all the way to 342. But I must say that despite what we are hearing, Nigeria seems to be thriving, because as far as Africa is concerned, Nigeria is still number 3 in Africa, considering the number of cases of COVID-19. But all of this, where do you see the numbers? Despite the fact that we have opened up everywhere. Churches are going to open on the 21st. Mosques are going to open on the 19th. Where do you see the numbers in the next let's not make it 100 days. In the next 50 days. Because if you look at what we had, about a month before now, 2,000, 3,000, now 12,000.
The thing about statistics is the lie within statistics. Statistics is within a context.
Okay.
We were low then,
because we were not testing enough.
Because we were not testing enough, one, and two, we don't have enough test kits. I, as a statistician, also I am listening to a silent voice that is coming from the government authorities. Mr. Akin Abayomi has just said that there are no more beds in isolation centers.
Yes, they're going to adopt the foreign strategy of treating them at home.
The Presidential Advisory Council are having a running battle with some governors who, for instance, in Kogi State, says as far as they are concerned, nothing has happened. I'm not defending government, nor am I saying that some of the things that we see are not happening. And those who have been discharged, people are asking, what did you give them? Why can't you
just give all of us?
Just give all of us and stuff like that. And so it's brought in some elements of relative doubt. And there are alleged that some people might be making money out of this. Now, on average, it was only just yesterday that I saw that the number of cases declared in Lagos just came down. It has averaged 150 to 200. Your question to me, What do I foresee going forward? If we have more testing done and we do it much more effectively and efficiently, the 10 pillars that the presidential multitasking
the
COVID,
task force, on COVID-19.
and people are now encouraged to come out and do the testing without any stigmatization. I will tell you, I hope I'm wrong, our numbers are going to go much more. We are number 3 in Africa, and I think we will perhaps,
even though we have the highest population,
we will perhaps take our rightful position of being number 1
I hope not.
in Africa. I can only hope not. For you, Tominsin, for me, and for many people that are listening to us, that we take our health in our hands. Government cannot do anything. All they talk about palliatives, or they talk about testing, the capacity, the anorexia. That is a condition, a medical condition that afflicts people who are medical doctors and scientists. They are overwhelmed. People are not doing what they need to do. They just go to throw themselves at them. Private treatment in houses, when you've not been given, they go ahead to do so. So quite a number of them are dying in situations. So we are having the people that are on the front line reducing. We are having people in the front line that are not properly motivated in a way, a manner that they should give out their best. Nigeria is doing well now. We used to be 5,000 naira for emergency payments to nurses. They've now done, I hope,
all the payments are not on paper, because they are alleging that some of them are on paper
now, and we do all that, and then the religious houses and shrines will be such that when they get more of this happening, because they say spirituality can only happen within the 4 walls of church, they will be kind enough to ensure that their members are taken care of by them, and that the churches will be ready to be isolation centers. If Landmark can be an isolation center,
the schools are rejecting that concept.
churches and mosques and shrines should be ready to be isolation centers.
What about schools?
Schools
That already have the dormitory in 30 seconds.
Schools
already have the dormitories.
Schools.
Since the educational sector is almost at
private
standstill.
homes, private facilities, like General Obasanjo did in Abeokuta.
In Abeokuta, which is home.
People who have more than one facility should get set. I am getting back, and I'm telling you, I hope and I pray that I'm wrong. I hope, I pray that the 1918 second wave will not fall on us. All the macho that we are doing there, we can do this, we can do that.
People are saying, no, let's go out, let's just go.
We should get set for it. The government have said their own, and they wash their hands. Is this what you want? Okay, go ahead and do what you want. But please take care of yourself. Take care of your neighborhood. Let compassion now. And Tominsin,
we need to go, Mr. Fatoke.
If you look at the US,
if
you look at the US,
yes, the numbers in the US is so alarming that
not that
about it.
The police and the authorities know they have done something that is wrong. They are going on their knees. People, policy makers at high centers should not just be saying we didn't know the hospitals are not working. We should all go on our knees and plead, apologize, and begin to do it right.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fatoke, for joining us on the COVID-19 update for this evening. We've been looking at the COVID-19 pandemic, and it has its tenure in Nigeria, 100 days in Nigeria. It's been an interesting conversation. Of course, we can't exhaust that conversation just in one sweep, but we will continue to look at it. But I would like to borrow from what Mr. Fatoke has ended with this morning. It's more like saying that we have washed our hands off you. It's now you are the ones clamoring to come out, you're the ones clamoring to go back to work, but it has become your responsibility. I like the fact that NCDC had always had that hashtag take responsibility from the beginning of this fight. That's going to be our closing statement today. As we begin to go back to work from tomorrow, make sure you take responsibility. It's all about you. and not about anybody else. If you take care of yourself, you're indirectly taking care of your family members and your neighbors and your colleagues at work. So it is important that you follow all of the guidelines and instructions of government to ensure that you are safe and that everyone around you is also safe. I am Toby Snojo. Have a wonderful afternoon. We'll see you again in the evening on the news. Bye for now.